Ask Me Anything by Redical. I suffered severe head injuries, 3 skull fractures, and lost all of my memory at 18. Ask Me Anything. I wonder what your dreams were like in the few months after the accident. Whoa, that's a seriously great question. I'm not meaning this as a joke, but I really don't remember. I've never thought about that. I had nothing to dream about in the beginning memory wise. That's a fantastic question. Do you ever start watching a movie and at some point stop it and say I've seen this shit? Hahaha, I do, but it has nothing to do with my head injuries. I just forget what the hell I've already ordered on Netflix. How old do you feel? Maybe a weird question, but I always thought that the felt age has a lot to do with the accumulation of memories and the experiences you made. Edit. Really interesting. Ask Me Anything. I'm sure a lot of people are interested. That's a fantastic question. I've never really put any thoughts into that, but I feel like I'm in my early 20s. I feel younger now than I ever remember feeling. I'm an only child and grew up very adult-like. I didn't watch cartoons. I didn't really play. Now I'm glued to Wallace and Gromit begging my boyfriend for a better slot car track. Can I blame being irresponsible and fun on the accident? You just changed my life. How well are with the guitar now? Did you listen to previous recordings of you playing it before the accident and compare it your style now? Do you notice a difference now versus before? Besides stop being a vegan, what other changes have others pointed out to you? Like in music? Hobbies? Did you have a job before and keep it after? Did you use Reddit before the accident? Do some memories come back after being triggered by something like a smell, touch, sound? Interesting. Amma. It took me a long time to get back to the player that I was before the accident. Before the accident, the guitar was my life. I mean that. From the time I started, I'd get home from school and do absolutely nothing but play guitar until I went to bed. My parents had to force me to eat because all I wanted to do was learn. After the accident, I had this memory of the fretboard, but I couldn't get anything to make sense to me. I couldn't remember how to play and it was the worst feeling ducking ever. I'm a decent player now, but it took a lot of work. I'm proud of the fact that I even play at all. Sticking with it was not easy, and I mean that sincerely. I had a job before the accident. I was a kids activities director at a local campground, and now I work part-time at a graphics shop and full-time as a musician. I did not use Reddit before the accident. I discovered Reddit in a Brooklyn apartment in late 2006. Most of the memories that have come back have been triggered exactly how you mentioned. A sound, the way something feels, etc. Other memories come back from another memory creeping in. This still happens to me today. Thank you. You mentioned you had to relearn simple tasks. What about speech? For some reason, that was fine. Because of the head injuries, I had problems with my vision. That's very common. And depth perception. I stabbed myself in the face with a fork about 1,000 times before I figured out where my mouth was. Ugh. It's so embarrassing to talk about now. Gulp. Daughter of a Baptist preacher. Are you still Baptist? Do you know if you were before? Also, what happened to get you a crushed dome piece? I absolutely was before. This was one of the hardest pieces for me. My entire family kept saying, "You're so lucky that God saved you," and I kept thinking, why the duck did God let this happen to me? I lost every ounce of the faith I once had. I'm still to this day the only atheist in the family. How did you get in such a horrible accident? Drunk driver? Ninja Reddit. I'm learning to drive, so this stuff freaks me out, intrigues me. Be careful out there. I don't usually talk about this just because it's hard for me, but my passenger in the car had been trying to get me to turn around. She jokingly grabbed the wheel and pushed it hard left, which sent my Jeep hard left and we rolled, tail over nose, 3 times. I do not remember this. She admitted all of this months after the accident. The EMTs that came to the scene grabbed her and left me because they thought I had already passed. I had lost 3 pints of blood out of my ears and they didn't feel a heartbeat. When they came back to get me, they chucked me onto the stretcher and I made a sound. They then, obviously, realized I was still living and phoned for a helicopter to be waiting at the hospital. I was evaced into the closest large city hospital. My passenger was paralyzed permanently, and I nearly died 3 times in the helicopter due to blood loss. How long ago was this? How much of your memory have you recovered now? Did you suffer from any paranoia at these people that you didn't know that insisted they were your family? I'm 31 now, but I did end up getting about 35% of my old memory back, and I believed them. But now that you mention it, you mentioned that other people mentioned a personality change. Did they ever go into it in detail? Constantly. Before my accident I was apparently very sweet and giving. After, not so much. I stopped believing in God. I lost every ounce of faith. I had always been very curious and inquisitive about all things religion, having grown up in it. But after the accident I had much more of a "this is bullshit and I just don't give a duck" attitude. I was the vice president of our local chapter of the Children's Miracle Network and the president of our local chapter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation before the accident. After the accident I was much more into enjoying my own life than constantly trying to make everyone else's better. Does that sound horrible? Yes. Is it true? Yep. So you left the hospital and just started injecting your arm. Just like that? Some more details would be nice. Who got you onto it? I started rehab for morphine addiction while still in the hospital recovering from my accident. My addiction was handed to me by a doctor. I went from not being allowed painkiller because of the head injuries. They thought I might need brain surgery at any moment. I was being watched like a hawk, and they can't be giving you heavy painkillers when you might be rushed in for emergency surgery, to floating on a cloud thanks to a morphine drip once brain surgery was no longer a worry. I had a central line, so I had morphine coming out of the drip and going directly into my heart. My heart would pump and sweet morphine would flow through my veins. I love that memory. After a while they took the morphine away. Every ounce of that pain came back and I went insane. I was in rehab. Got clean, left the hospital and started abusing my pain pills. Once I started playing in a band again I met a guy that did heroin. He told me it was nearly identical to morphine and I tried it. If you want details. He put a needle in my arm in the bathroom stall of a bar in East Nashville, Tennessee immediately after our set. I stayed in contact with him. And he ended up scoring me liquid morphine from a cancer patient who was selling it. He was a really big fan of our bands and started following us around and keeping me continuously high. Sadly, he actually died of a black tar heroin overdose this year. We went through a lot together, both using and both clean. And he was a great friend, because I was in so much pain. I was just trying to escape that. I wasn't just wanting to get high like your typical junkie, and I was insanely functioning. My bandmates had no clue I was using. Our bass player caught me doing the heroin hunch with a needle in my arm once and he literally could not have been more shocked. He's one of my best friends on the planet and he had no clue. There's nothing about me that screams junkie. I accordioned my spine in the accident and have broken discs, herniated discs, fractured discs, bulging discs, you name it. On top of that I broke 14 ribs in the accident and they healed all ratty. My body is in awful shape and I go to a pain clinic to keep moving now. Yay for surgery and being alive. By the way, I'd rather go through the pain of my accident again than have to quit heroin again. But I don't do it now because I don't want to quit again. Quitting is worse than anything else one can face, emo. Do you think of your pre-accident self as a different person? I do. Not consciously, but I definitely do. Especially when people are telling me stories I don't remember. Were either of you wearing your seatbelt at the time? No, we were not. We were going the distance of about 1 stroke to a mile and neither of us threw on our seatbelts. The real shame of it is that we both always wore seatbelts. But, I do have to say, I was driving a Jeep Wrangler. The hardtop was busted off on the initial roll and the roll bar saved my life. She was thrown out of the Jeep immediately. I stayed inside of it until the Jeep landed, which is why I broke so many bones, did so much internal damage and had the head injuries. If that had been a normal car, the roof would have caved and we both would have died. I know it's nothing like you, but sometimes I write important stuff down so I won't forget them later. I think it would be weird to read stuff I did and not remember I did it. I wanted to hope that a spark would ignite the past, but it seems you've lived 2 lives in the time we live one. Whoa, that's got to be a rather life-changing experience. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Now when you say you lost all of your memory, is it safe to assume you had to start from scratch? Did you regain any former memories or did you have to form all new ones? I'd be quite sad if you couldn't get all nostalgic over your youth like the rest of us. I ended up regaining some of it very slowly, but even to this day I'll run into someone from my childhood and they'll give me one of those "remember that time you," and I'll have no idea what they're talking about. It was so hard for my family members and friends. I was no longer the same kid. As a psych major that learns about people like you all the time, it is nice to talk to one in real life. Yay, I've wanted to post this Ask Me Anything forever. I love Reddit so, but didn't because I wasn't really sure if anyone would even care. Any question you might have, I'd love to answer. I go to meetings every now and then for people who have experienced head injuries and every single case is different of course. It's always wild to see how each piece of the brain controls a certain aspect of the body. Memory loss is common, obviously, but everything else, completely random. How long was your recovery? I was in intensive care alone for 28 days and then spent just short of forever in physical rehab. Did your friends and family say your personality changed? This sentence times a million. My personality changed completely, unbeknownst to me, of course. Hearing "you're so different" made me want to punch people in the throat. I ended up moving mostly just to escape that. Nice try, Jason Bourne. I still use it as an out sometimes. I forgot to do that because of my head injuries. I know someone asked you if your personality changed, but is there something major about you that changed? Favorite foods? Are you more outgoing? Favorite sports etc. Also, did you have to relearn reading? I did have to relearn how to read, but luckily after a few months pieces started coming back to me. I didn't necessarily remember how to read, but I knew that I was once able to read, which for someone with memory loss is a major victory, even though that might sound silly to you. Knowing that you were once able does one of two things. 1. It encourages you. You realize you used to be able, so all you have to do is learn again. Or 2. It discourages you. Your brain says "Goddammit, I could do this before," and you get frustrated and angry. That's how I felt learning how to play guitar. Angry. Very angry. My food tastes almost completely changed. I was borderline vegetarian and rarely ate meat. Afterward, I wanted barely warm steak and lots of it. People would constantly tell me "you don't like insert whatever," and I'd be eating it thinking, "You don't know me or what I like. Shut up." I'm more cynical now and much more selfish. But I don't think that's necessarily because of the actual memory loss head injury, but more from going through such a major trauma. You realize life is ducking short and you have to enjoy it. That may sound cliche, but it's true. I spend 9/10ths of my day laughing and being silly now. I rarely take things seriously. I enjoy my life. I don't sweat the small stuff and I seldom worry. Live. Did you have a boyfriend at the time? I did, and I didn't remember him, but he helped me through everything. Stood by me, and we were married not long after I was permanently released from hospital. Not quite an all though, because we divorced last August. Not really related to your injuries, but I'm wondering how your Baptist family deals with you being an atheist. The Baptists I've known aren't typically the most accommodating with such blasphemy, family or number. They don't deal with it well. They love me, but it's a subject we don't bring up very often. To be honest, I'm a little jealous of that blind faith. My mom, who's truly a son of a woman, finds such comfort in things that truly make me laugh. Both of my parents are Ask Me Anything people, and I mean that, so it's something we skirt just because either of us want to disrespect the other. Have you ever seen home movies of yourself that were taken before the accident? I have, lots of them because of playing music. It's not an "I don't recognize that person" experience, although it is embarrassing because I had a horrible haircut all through junior high. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm gonna have to see some proof. Well then, get over here, mister, and let's hang out. Dinner tomorrow? Did you forget this Ask Me Anything? Ha 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 ha. That was good. Do you still keep in contact with the passenger friend? I do. We always talk on the anniversary of the wreck no matter what, but we talk at random when something happens to come up. We live so far away now we don't really hang or anything. would you say about things like movies or books that tell stories that you more forgot them, remembered them, or that it wasn't affected more or less than anything else? Thanks for watching this radical video. Subscribe for the best Reddit videos straight to your feed 3 times a day.